right, well, welcome everybody to the Nordic Ed Micro Topic podcast series. And in this whole series, what we're going to be doing is just covering small little topics and just whipping through them 10, 15 minutes each. And we're going to have a lot of fun and learn a lot of things very, very fast. So today I have on the phone with me Captain Ray McCormack. He's in Vancouver, Washington. And Ray has done tons and tons and tons of deliveries, and I think his favorite delivery is from the West Coast across to Hawaii, which takes several weeks of doing it, and so he's certainly qualified to talk about night sailing. So, Ray, welcome to the show today.
Yes, thank you, Grant. I look forward to, helping to share my knowledge and passion about being on the water, and yeah, today's topic is night sailing techniques.
Yeah.
So I've got a list of bullet items here.
Yeah, let's get into them. We'll just knock them all out. These are, I've looked over the bullet list and it's pretty fantastic. So hit it up. Go for it.
Excellent. Yeah. So, one of the things I tell my crew come on my deliveries is get a headlamp that has, red as well as white. And there are some alternative colors out there. I think blue and green are also colors that people use for maintaining your night vision. And so the reason we use these colors is in the evening, in the dark, if you use like these red, blue or green lights, it helps to maintain your night vision. You use a white light. When you turn that white light off, there will be a period of time when you can't see like lights in the distance and things like that, right? So yeah, it's important that we keep our night vision at night.
Yeah, so that's the headlamps that you've got on. They've got little buttons on them. You can change colors on the buttons, right?
That is correct. Yeah, my headlamp only does white and red, so I'm still using red. But like there has been some studies by the U.S. Navy. I think they're using green now for night vision.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, so establishing appropriate watch schedule is really critical to get through an evening or a night situation. We typically on our deliveries will use anything from 3 to 6 hours. Typically 3 hours is what I use. Particularly on those Hawaii deliveries, those long hauls. If you have 4 people and you do 3 hours, everybody gets 9 hours of rest usually in a 4-person situation. But if it's 3, you only get 6. So things that can affect that watch schedule are things like getting cold or having to work real hard driving the boat or trimming sails or doing other activities. We adjust the watch schedule is never set in stone. One of the things that I've done on my deliveries is I'll typically give each person a number. So I'll be 1, my first mate will be 2, and then the other 2 crimmers will be 3 and 4. And so then what I'll do is in the evening, when we're doing our punch list, every evening there's a punch list usually on the Hawaii deliveries. And it can be everything from boil water to talk about the weather and the route for the night.
Navigation issues that are along the way or anything like that, so you can tell the crew to watch out for.
Yeah.
Wind changes or anything like that, right?
Yeah, and then after my watch, which say my watch is from 8 to 11, and that may slide, right? So the next evening I might be 9 to midnight, right? It just depends on the situation. And then the next person would come up and they would serve 3 hours. The next person comes up, serve 3 hours. And then I would get up after that third person or that fourth person, and then I would take over, okay? And in the daytime, we do what's called a feedback system. And so basically, if you can stay up and let other people nap, that's what you should do. That's, typically that's worked pretty good for us. Just doing a structure through the night and then being unstructured during the daytime. Now, if the weather gets really bad or something like that, then we might do it more structured in the daytime. So,
yeah, I did one trip I did south in the Caribbean, and it was 3 days, 3 nights. And so I think the first night I had, I think it was 9 through 12, and then the next night was 12 through 3, and then the next night was 3 through 6. And so it sort of changed it up a little bit for me. And I got to watch a sunrise and got to see a sunset. And, it was actually just sort of really good to not go, oh my goodness, this is, here I go again, have to stay up for 3 hours. So what do you call that? A structured?
Rotating schedule. Rotating watch schedule. Yeah. So we'll typically do, on some of my Hawaii deliveries, after we've got out of the trade winds, we would set up a rotating schedule for the evening. And, and we do that with my current watch structure, right? So rotating, basically 4 would come in and do 1 spot, and then 1 is doing 2 spot and 3 is doing 4 spot, right? And we do a rotation to the evening like that.
Right. So you're changing it up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah. So keeping a diligent watch is super important, particularly in high traffic areas. So sometimes, having 2 on deck or 3 on deck helps with getting through situations like that. And that can be structured into a watch schedule also.
And what about, falling asleep? I mean, sometimes you just can't help it. You're so tired, you're up there watching, nothing's going on, it's pretty boring, and then, before you know it, you're asleep. What can you do to stop that?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Right? Snacks, coffee, snacks.
I heard about like an egg timer, right? So you can set an egg timer for 10 minutes and so that it goes off.
That's called a watchmate. And a lot of the commercial boats use watchmates, and I've experienced those. I know what those are. Some of the commercial boats, right, require 2 or 3 in the wheelhouse, and so sometimes there is no watchmate. But like on some fishing boats I've been on, there's been watchmates, and that's basically a timer. So it's set up that for say 3 minutes, and if you don't hit it, an alarm goes off.
Right.
Yeah, I don't use those in my deliveries. On the Hawaii stuff, in the first couple days, I might have some crew that are having trouble sleeping. All the excitement, and then the trade winds with the big waves. But pretty quickly they start sleeping off watch, and that's the key to not sleeping on watch.
Right. And, some other things are, definitely like alcohol. That's just a bad idea for getting anywhere close to staying awake on a watch, right?
Yeah, that is correct. On the Hawaii deliveries, we'll usually, I'll usually hide a couple bottles of alcohol, and we'll have a halfway party.
Right.
And so, we bring stuff, and and that's all dependent on weather. Right. So I may slide that halfway party a day back or a day earlier, depending on if we're going to see big breeze. We don't drink. But if we have a fairly calm day, we'll have a day, everybody can basically relief a little bit.
One of the things that really helped me, because I can fall asleep anywhere. I fell asleep riding a motorcycle once, right? So what helps me is if you've got a Starlink on the boat, right? So if you've got Starlink, what I did was I just sat at the top, turn on my laptop, and I actually got some work done at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Totally.
So that was awesome. I'd highly recommend anybody getting Starlink on their boat. Even just to keep your crew awake at night.
Yeah. So next bullet is good binoculars. I carry a pair of good binoculars as a delivery captain, and so I bring those on every boat I go on.
Right. You need night vision. You don't need night vision glasses. Those are expensive anyway, right? Do you use those?
Yeah. Right. So those are expensive, and if you have the resources to get those, that's fine. I don't carry night vision binoculars. Mine are just typical 7x50 with a compass and the light on it. Yeah. So having a route and a plan for the evening established before the evening is a good idea, and that's basically you get a whole the crew together and you talk about the evening and like what's the weather going to be. Verify the route's been scrubbed. Have you boiled your water? All that kind of stuff.
You're talking. This second time you've mentioned boiled water. What's going on there?
Typically on my deliveries, I'll set up an air pot, which is a pump pot. Sometimes you see them in 7-Elevens or in yacht clubs, and it's for dispensing coffee and water. They're glass lined. So what we'll do is we'll put the air pot into the sink, or we'll lash it to something. And so we'll boil water and fill that before the evening, and that way people can have coffee, cocoa, hot soup, or hot oatmeal, right?
Or even noodles or something like that, right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. And then you used another word just before. You scrub the track in front of you. Or what's
scrub the route? Yeah. That's typically on like rivers or inlets, or coastal. On my Hawaii deliveries, the scrub of the route is just to verify that we're on track. I think it's important to note, typically what I'll do on my deliveries is I take some green 2-inch painter's tape. I'll put it on the bulkhead, and I have a black marker there. So when we have a course, we mark it down, okay, on the tape. That way, if you turn the boat in the evening, you know what number to go back to. And that's the autopilot heading, by the way.
Right. And so scrubbing the route also would mean you'd look ahead in the chart for any reefs or anything like that that's in the way.
Or navigation marks, yeah.
Right.
Sometimes a route will go right over a navigation mark, and you don't want to run into those, right? Typically, you should be offshore of those.
Yeah. All right. And then also, I think you'd mentioned one time with me that a wind change in the middle of the night was coming, or what happened with was a crew member on that one that forgot to take that into account, and what happened there?
Yeah. That was 2 years ago in November. I delivered a sailboat from Hawaii to Vancouver, BC. And I had the evening, we were going into an evening, and I had a discussion with the whole crew in the cockpit. And I said, the weather is showing a wind change, and it's going to be a 180 swing. And we had the boat set up on sail vane mode on the Ray Marine autopilot, okay, which basically means that the boat is steering to the apparent wind. Okay. And one of the crew members decided that that they weren't going to wake me up when the wind shifted. So the COG of the boat changed, right? Big time. In fact,
course over ground, COG, course over ground.
Yeah, I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I saw the sun rising out of the port side of the boat, which is the wrong direction. And I didn't, I was so tired, I didn't think of it. But I got up the next morning, and we'd only made 4 miles on our DTG. So, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm laughing. All right, next bullet point.
Next bullet point. So what we'll do typically in that early evening is we'll make sure that everybody has a 1-gallon zip bag with their name on it, and we put lots of little treats in there, right? So, chips, granola bars, candy, we'll just populate a bunch of stuff into these bags, and that you take that up on your watch, so you have something that you can eat without having to run down inside the boat.
Right, because eating food will keep you awake a little bit more as well, right?
Yeah.
Not too much, but, munching.
Yeah, a little bit of sugar, right? Caffeine and sugar, those will keep you up, right?
Right.
Yeah, so let's real quick, just, it's not on the bullet here, the next bullet, I'll get to the next bullet in a second, but we should just talk about falling asleep on watch. So, there's things you can do for that, like drink coffee, drink cocoa. So sugar and caffeine will help keep you up. One of the things that'll happen typically on our Hawaii deliveries is I'll bring a couple of greenhorns. These are people that haven't crossed an ocean or don't have a lot of ocean experience. And so coming out of Hawaii on a 2,500 mile delivery across the Pacific, and the first thing you get subjected to is the trade winds. And that usually results in big waves, big wind, and your beam reaching. And so the first couple of days, those greenhorns don't usually sleep. It's very rare they do. And so eventually after the 3rd, 4th day, right, they start to sleep during their off watch. And that's the real critical thing to not falling asleep on watch, is just making sure you're getting enough rest, taking care of yourself.
Right, sleeping off watch so that you don't sleep on watch.
Yeah, I sleep like a baby. And that's usually because I'm in the quarter berth. That's one of my favorite places to sleep on a sailboat doing a Hawaii delivery. Yeah, because I can sit, listening to the water rushing by the hull. So I sleep like a baby.
I did hear an evil laugh before when you mentioned greenhorns.
Yeah, I've been very good about, I run a MailChimp list, delivery crew list basically. And I've brought a lot of greenhorns on deliveries. Yeah, shared my knowledge and my passion.
Well, what's been their experience at the end? What are they saying?
A lot of my crew have said it's the best time they've ever had.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, out of 350 people that I've been on my MailChimp list, there's only been about 5 that I call get on the blacklist. And those are people that didn't work out for one reason or the other on the delivery. And I said, you won't be invited back. By the way, that crew member that sailed the wrong way, or that person's on that blacklist.
Maybe that crew member learned not to ever do that again. So maybe you should take them off your blacklist, actually. Well, maybe there was some
Yeah,
other
well,
reasons.
that's a whole nother discussion, Grant, over a beer. I'll tell you about that one.
Okay. Ray, have you got a website at all where people can sign up on?
Yeah, I have a tiny URL. So, it's in my signature. If you look at one of my emails, there's just a tiny URL there. If you want to, post that. That's how people can get on my crew list, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And I own that list. You don't get spam. You just every now and then you'll get an email that says, "Here's the boat. We're going from this place to this place, and here's what's covered. Here's what's not, and that kind of stuff."
All right. No, I'll put that in the podcast notes. So if anybody's looking at this podcast, just go to the notes on it, and we'll have that tiny URL there. So if people want to sign up to do a Hawaii to West Coast or whatever delivery with you, it sounds like you're a pretty good captain. So I'll come sailing with you. All right.
I'd love to have you anytime, man. Anytime.
All right. Let's
and vice versa, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. What do you got next on the list?
Okay, so it's good to talk ahead of time about questions that could develop in the evening, like traffic. So that's one of the reasons why we carry an AS transponder on our deliveries, and carry radar reflectors that go up in the rig, so that we can be seen. And yeah, I'm a big fan of communicating with boats, establishing, basically intentions with other vessels. Okay. That's been one of the big things that we do, is that we practice that. And I make it very clear that, yeah, you should pull up someone's AS signature. You should get their vessel name, and you should hail them on the VHF, right? You switch to another channel, and then, you establish a crossing, right? So either port to port, starboard to starboard, you're going to cross my bow, you're going to cross my stern.
Right. And that's AIS. So we'll talk about AIS in another show coming up. But that's a super important tool for sailing through the night, and knowing how to use it, and as a captain, teaching your crew how to use an AIS, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's the next bullet, right, is to use radar and AS transponders for further safety in the evening. Really critical to use those tools. So not just the chart plotter, but also if you have a radar. By the way, if you have a radar on board and it's functional and you get in a collision, the U.S. Coast Guard will fine you, because you are required to use your radar if it's functional. The next one is policies that I put in place. It's usually on the float plan. I usually discuss it with the crew ahead of time. So using life jackets, tethers, and jack lines, and then making a policy about staying in the cockpit until others come up from the cabin to help you. Okay, so the jack line is basically a web piece of webbing that can go all the way around the boat. It can also be in other places, like in the cockpit or up by the mast, up on top of the cabin top. And these are places where you can hook your tether, which is the piece of webbing with the failing thread in it. Okay, so if it gets pulled, if the tether gets pulled, the threads break, and you're supposed to throw that tether away. But your life jacket will have a hook in for the tether, and then you tether to the jack lines, and that allows you to walk around the boat and do things, while staying connected to the boat.
Right, and so the tether has two hooks on it, right, so that you can clip into either side of the jackline point. So as you're walking around the boat, you come across a point where the jackline is connected to the boat, so you can
there are tethers that are double tethers. Okay?
Yeah,
so the ones I have are double tethers. So I have a short and long, and it has hooks.
Yeah, so you can move past a jackline point, without even having a microsecond of being disconnected. So because of
That's correct. You connect into the other one before you disconnect the other one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Very cool. Carry on.
Yeah. So and real quickly, the policy about staying in the cockpit. So I make it clear to my crew that I usually sleep in the quarter berth, and so they can take a wind channel and they pound it on the deck, or they decrease engine RPM, and that would get me up, basically. And so, yeah, I would be usually the one that goes up on deck to address something, even in the evening.
Well, just because you've done it before plenty of times, and you know exactly what to do, and you don't want to send a greenhorn up on front of the deck in the middle of the night with waves, right?
Yeah. So be extra careful at night. We coined the phrase, one hand for yourself, one hand for the boat, and keep your weight low. That's crawling on deck if you need to, and be real careful with moving around on the boat. That's why we use headlamps, so you can keep both your hands free. You can carry something in one hand for the boat. And then ship's ladder. You always should face a ship's ladder before you go down it or up it.
Right. Yeah, don't go down on your heels going down facing away from it. You're going to end up on your hitting your bum multiple times going down there and breaking something.
Oh, yeah, and there's been lots of people with cracked ribs, right, going down companionways front, and they fall and they hit their ribs on the stairs, and then they crack a rib. And on a Hawaii delivery, that's really, really bad, especially if you're 1,000 miles from Hawaii.
Right. So face the stairs as you go down, right? Toes into the stairs.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. Entering harbors and bars for your first time can be risky in the evening. It adds more risk than it would be at daytime. So sometimes it's best to wait for daybreak. Either you slow down or you anchor out if you're in a bay situation. The Columbia River Bar, which is what I call my playground. Yeah, I've done probably 300 crossings on that bar. There's not really anywhere to anchor out there. So we would slow down or we do circles out there until it would open up. But I don't hardly ever do circles. Usually we'll slow down or we'll just go ahead and cross.
Slow down. So like maybe 6 hours beforehand, you're looking at your projected landing time. You're like, okay, we're going to land at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's too early. All right, let's slow the boat down. Let's reef the boat. Let's do whatever it is to make it so
or what I've done sometimes is I'll run a ley line offshore, right? And I'll calculate how long it'll take if we sail offshore and jibe and then sail back, right? That could also give us that time.
Right.
Sail a little extra distance, but it's a comfort thing, right?
Absolutely. Safety thing.
That's right.
All right. And I'm looking at
the last thing I'll talk about is sunsets and sunrises. So on my Hawaii deliveries, they usually tell people that is the one thing that you'll take away from a Hawaii delivery is the fact that you can see a sunset and a sunrise, and they are some of the best. They're so beautiful. I have so many sunset and sunrise pictures. It's nuts.
Well, and that's the cool part about doing this sort of rotating schedule where you're doing your watch at different times of the night. So you'll get a sunset, and then your other crew members will get a sunset or a sunrise, and so you're seeing different parts of the night, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, like I said, on the Hawaii deliveries, we wait till after the trade winds because we don't want to add any complexity, right? So usually our rotating schedule will come in after we exit the trades, and what happens is the wind starts to back, and that's where the wind backs on you, and you start easing sails, and it gets real nice, actually.
Right. Well, Ray, man, thanks very much for all these tips on night sailing. And they're not just tips; these are almost have to dos because it's involving safety. So, thanks a lot. Have you got anything to add to that, or should we just round this one up for this time?
No, I think I'm good, and thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate being able to put this together.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, okay, cheers, Ray. Thanks very much. Happy sailing next time you do one.